Me, Piet Viljoen, I think black people in South Africa are inferior to white people. So let me give you a crash course in history, because I have a degree. We all know that by now. And that the courts said that I'm extremely smart. So the settlers came in the 1600s. 100 years later, the African arrived. And the white people built everything. The roads, the buildings, everything, the trade routes, everything was developed by either white.
Okay, Piet, let me give you a crash course in actual history.
Every time there's an argument about land rights and expropriation of land in South Africa, the most common white supremacist talking point is that they were here first. Bro, seriously.
Hey, I'm telling you, you can think you live in another world.
That is just so stupid. Like, I would respect you more if you were honest and said something akin to, my ancestors came here with fast days, killed anyone who tried to resist and enslaved the rest. Like, I would respect the honesty. I'd still hate you, but I'd respect the honesty. The argument is inherently flawed, because even documents whereby you claim the land say that you at least defrauded the native population. So here's a video about the Khoi, the San, and the myth of Terra Nullius. Terra Nullius, full word Territorium Nullius. Is it clear that I fucking hate Latin? Like, I'm digging deep into my law of property, and it's Terra Nullius is a Latin term which directly means empty land. It was a doctrine that allowed white colonizers to claim and take any land they deemed to be uninhabited. But theories such as social Darwinism allowed them to stretch the limits of the word uninhabited by changing what was considered empty land. Foraging peoples like the Aboriginals of Australia, the San and the Khoi of Southern Africa, and the Pacific Islanders were not considered civilized people, and as such, the land they inhabited would be considered unsettled due to what Europeans considered civilized society. The San and the Khoi could not be considered civilized due to their lack of cities, organized government, institutions that Europeans would consider parts of a civilized society. Their lack of concepts of property and land ownership meant that they could not be considered able to complete intelligent transactions related to land. So how the fuck did Jan van Riebeeck buy land from them? Like, seriously, how do you buy land from people who cannot sell land? This allowed Europeans to take the land, cultivate it, and claim that they did not find anyone there because, well, where are their cities? In Southern Africa, the land was clearly inhabited. Europeans treated it as Terra Nullius because the Khoisan were not deemed to be lawfully inhabiting the land. This meant that they could deny any rights to a land and even the traditional practices the Aboriginals had with the land.
The Khoi and San community is calling for an end to what it describes as the continuation of the legacy of dispossession of their identity and land rights.
The Constitutional Court said we have an independent system, that we are a sovereign people, that we predate all the states of this country, pre-colonial, colonial, apartheid and post-apartheid. So we are here to assert those rights that the Constitution has enshrined. We are also saying that the Constitution doesn't need to be amended. We only need compliance with the Constitution because...
Okay, time for some grateful history. Long ago, before there was anything, there was a land that would be known as Southern Africa. And in the land, there were the Khoisan. Starting point. The Khoisan is not a single monogamous group of people. It's a classification. It's how we classify the original inhabitants of Southern Africa. And even then, we know that the San are the original inhabitants than the Khoi. But there's a deeper story here. Who are the Khoi and who are the San? We use the term Khoisan to group them, but it's quite more nuanced than that. The groups, as we were taught in grade 4, are split into two, namely the San, who are characterized as nomadic hunter-gatherers, so they hunt game and gather native plants as food sources. Then we have the Khoi, who are pastoralists or rather own livestock and had a nomadic lifestyle where they moved around in search of grazing land. Studies show that the San arrived first, then the Khoi. Both groups fundamentally changed each other's way of life. The Khoi as pastoralists introduced livestock like cattle and goats to Southern Africa, which meant that they competed with the San for grazing land, which the San used for honey, game, and for edible plants. This results in change of habits for both groups. Both groups interact and create multiple such cultures that evolved each other's lifestyle. Their houses were light and easy to make each other for their nomadic lifestyle to be effective. They used animals, cattle, to transport their goods on their back. Cattle became a sign of wealth in Khoi society and those same communities impacted by life. This also shows how they interacted with the Bantu groups when the Bantu groups arrived.
Amabhunu asizukwazi tu ukuwathemba bawaqhelile amakhoi bawadlakazelisa bawazingela ingathi zizilwanyana.
In Zulu culture, right, there's this saying, "Buhle bendoda inkomo zayo," which basically means that the beauty of a man is his cows, which means the more cows you have, the more likely you're going to get laid. And that was the case in Khoi society, it's the case in Xhosa society, it's the case in most South African societies. Basically, the more cows you have, the richer you are. And the languages are incredibly interesting. The San have a bunch of highly divergent languages as opposed to the Khoi seemingly closely related dialects of the same language.
Their language has an idiosyncrasy of its own. It seems to consist mainly of clicking sounds.
The most common language is the Na belonging to the Khoi language family. I hope I said that right. Which is used commonly in today in parts of South Africa, Namibia, and Botswana. The clicks common in Bantu groups, namely Khoisan and Zulu, can be traced back to the Khoi language family. Many Xhosa people can trace their origins to intermarrying with Khoi and San peoples.
Bafuna ukuphatha umhlaba wonke jikelele baxhobile ngenkanunu imipu neenqanawa. Amabhunu ayaqonda amaqhinga amangesi. Xa sidibanisa imikhosi singaboyisa.
It shows that intermarrying and mixing between groups was very common because of how the languages involved. Basically, it's not just, oh, we're Bantu groups, so we have our own languages. They're also impacted by the Khoi and the San. When Jan van Riebeeck arrived at the Cape in 1652, the first people he interacted with were the Khoi. He traded with them for cattle and goods he needed to set up his glorified petrol station. The colored people can trace the origins to the mixing between the Khoi and Dutch settlers and slaves imported to the Cape. So to anybody who believes there was an empty land when white people came, who did your poster boy Johan buy the land from?
Actually, this is stupid, Nickel. I mean, what the hell is wrong with you? I'm really asking.
I don't know.
You don't know. You know why you don't know? Because you don't think. That's why. You don't think. You never figured out how to think.